Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to After the Game with Todd Leary, brought to you by Yogi's. Of course, I'm not there tonight, or you can see it up there. A little weather issues, so I did not go in tonight, but still brought to you by Yogi's. We'll get that taken care of. Todd Leary, of course, star of the show here tonight, is Indiana gets a much-needed victory over Minnesota, a game that they absolutely had to have, Todd Leary, but they do get the win, 82-72. They win it kind of cleanly at the end there. They get a lot of impressive things offensively that we haven't seen. Guards shooting well. There's a lot of good things to talk about in that area.
Yeah, there are. There are. And this was, the star of the show was Indiana's defense in the second half. I mean, it still looks like putting up 72 points from Minnesota. That's a big number in the Big Ten, but there's about 10 or 12 points at the end of that game that were just based on the fact of fouling and extending the game out. But this is a really good defensive performance in the second half. Giving up 37 in the first half, I honestly really felt like it was going to be a poor ending to the game when the defense gave up that many points in the first half. And we always focus so much on Indiana's offense and everything that they do. But today, the second half defense was what got it for Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been looking for some guard play, a little consistent guard play. Of course, one game does not make it consistent, but you sure got it tonight. The shooting was there, 50% shooting from. It ended up being 5 different guys. The entire team would end up shoot 57.8, almost 58% on the night. Incredible. But you had 5 individuals, I think, that would shoot 50% or better. Which is tremendous when you're getting that many people shooting that well.
Yeah, it is. And no matter what we try to talk about, or whether it's turnovers, or whether it's the defense, or whether it's rotations or rebounding, we always end up going back to the offense at some point. And it's funny how that's the case. And it goes to show you, I mean, when you can score points, you can overcome a lot of other things. And then you can overcome. Indiana gave up way too many offensive rebounds in the second half, and the defense still, time after time, kept getting another stop. And this was a game that Indiana, in the past, with the offense they've had in the past, could have easily lost this game. And there was a point in that second half, with about 13 minutes to go in the second half, there was a point where I really thought you could tell Indiana kind of turned the corner. Like I saw something different out of them. I saw Rob Finney making plays. Al Durham was the best player on the floor tonight. I mean, I know Trace Jackson-Davis's numbers are going to look that way, but Al was the best player. Like when he made the plays when they had to happen, and if they can get that kind of play out of him and Rob Finney, I go back and think about it, and I think Al has gone under the radar for a good portion of this year. He's been Indiana's most consistent player. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think I overlook him all the time too, because I kept looking for somebody else to always step up and make plays. But it was a big deal for him tonight. I thought he was a big part of the comeback in the second half.
Well, his numbers or his stat line's incredible. He scored 16 points on 5 of 6 shooting. He was 2 of 2 behind the 3-point line. He was 4 of 4 at the free throw line. He had a couple assists. He had 4 personal fouls, 4 turnovers. But man, you're that busy. You're gonna a couple of those turnovers were unnecessary, but great night. Just tremendous, active. Their activity tonight was different. They it came from their core guys, but they seemed to be a lot more active tonight.
Yeah, they did, and the ball seemed to be moving from side to side. They seemed to play a little bit more with a purpose, I think, tonight than what we've seen in the past. And this is I saw something different tonight. Like this team looked different tonight. I felt better about them tonight. I don't think we can expect to score 82 points every game. I think the defense has to be better in the first half. If this is a game where they only give up, 28 or 29 points in that first half, this is a really good, solid all-around victory. But the defense has got to clean some stuff up.
We talked about this a little bit. They still did a little too much of this for my liking. I think that there were times when they did speed the ball up, but sometimes we were talking off air. You said that that was probably not by design.
Yeah, I think when Indiana runs, I think it's kind of because other teams don't get back, or there's long rebounds, or you very seldom see like your typical rebound where there's an outlet pass. and the other team is getting back and Indiana pushes it and is able to get an easy basket. That didn't happen all that often. A lot of times it's either a long rebound or a scramble or something, or a steal. But I'd like to see him, turn it up a little bit and get up and down the floor. The scary part for me is and I don't want to turn negative. I'm Johnny Positive today. I feel good about the way this team looked. I mean, they've got themselves in a good position, but Indiana struggles to score when they use a lot of clock offensively. And that scares me a little bit when it comes down to kind of salting the game away at the end, when you've got a team, you're ahead by 6 points or so, and you're trying to run some clock and use as much clock as possible and then get a basket. Indiana struggles to score at the end of those clock situations, and I just hope that doesn't come back to haunt us down the road.
Anthony Leal doesn't see the floor. That's a weird, something must be going on there, because
there's got to be an injury we don't know about or something.
Yeah, which is usually unusual. They usually mention it, but I didn't hear anything. I don't understand, because everybody else played, and so and he would have been needed out there tonight. So surprised on that, but great to see the guards playing well together. Jerome Hunter, man, he's come back from this 2-game suspension. He's gotten a technical and a flagrant one, but that flagrant one was BS. That was a bullcrap call. He's playing with more moxie. He may play with the most moxie of anybody on this entire team.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder right now. I don't know if he's trying to prove the coach is wrong or everybody wrong or what the deal is, but I mean, he looks good. Like, he looks confident offensively, which I think this is the Jerome we expected to see all year long. I don't know why it took him getting suspended for a couple of games in order for that to be the case, but you know what? Let's go with it. Let's ride the momentum while we've got it. And Jerome's that guy that we haven't seen the best basketball out of him. There's a lot more to him than what Indiana's gotten out of him so far, and I really think that he's got some special big moments coming offensively for Indiana.
Well, that answers that question. I don't guess he's injured, or maybe there's something else. But he's after the game. He's on the floor shooting right now. So Anthony Leal, I don't know. It's awfully strange for everybody to play but one guy that normally is in the rotation, one that shoots the ball. So maybe, I don't know, something went on in practice. I'm not going to speculate because I don't know. I have no idea. Trace is rebounding for him, so there you go. That's nice. It's one of those things. It'd be silly for us to try to take a guess at what it is. Probably a coach's decision if it comes down to that. I mean, I'm really not sure, but we'll see what happens down the road with that and where we end up going. I doubt it'll be any big deal. Minnesota gets off 60 shots tonight. That's different. I hit the wrong one there, but I meant to hit one. Minnesota got off 60 shots tonight. That's a lot of up and down trips up and down the floor against a team that's not going up and down the floor normally much. That's what Iowa wishes they could get done when they play Indiana. They can't get that done.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of that also, you saw with about 4 minutes to go, you saw Minnesota extend this game out. There's a lot more possessions at the end of that game than what there normally would have been. So, not surprising. I mean, that's not a crazy number. I mean, it's probably much more than they're used to, but it's not a crazy number.
Bill Lambier, I don't know about that. He's not maybe he is. He did get the flagrant one in the technical, so I guess
that's what they're talking about.
He qualifies, so he qualifies for that. 58% from the 4-point line. That's a new shot there, Tim. Let's see, shot threes and free throw. Yeah, free throws. That's always something to 23 of 30. 76% tonight.
Again, they only shot 16 of those free throws up to about 5 minutes to go. Yeah, they shot 14 free throws in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, so let's don't get too all jacked up about that. Lander shooting in the opposite basket. Yeah, those guys got to get their baskets in. How often after games were you out there shooting?
We weren't allowed to be honest with you. It was one of those situations that things were a lot different under Coach Knight. We weren't allowed to shoot before the game, and we weren't allowed to shoot after the game. Now,
really,
after everything was gone and everything was over, if you wanted to grab a manager and come back in there and shoot afterwards, we could do that way after. But there would never be a situation like what they're doing right now. But it's also COVID and quarantine and all that. So, I mean, I'm sure the rules are totally different.
This one, this up in Indiana needs to clean up before Michigan
Hey, I got to
State
move
is
here real quick. They're closing the bar on me, so I got to move around the corner here real quick. So
going on right
I'll be
ahead.
right back.
Michigan State is Indiana's next opponent coming up this Saturday. That game is set for noon. Of course, Yogi's has breakfast club that day. If you're in Bloomington, you better get there early if you're going there. Of course, we'll be there afterwards for after the game. But Michigan State, next opponent. They've been playing so well. They've been knocking on the door, and of course, it's Tom Izzo. We all know that he gets his teams ready to play toward the end of the year, but they're missing a guy. They're a guy short right now, I think, of kind of making it come together. But they're knocking on the door, and I think they're going to knock somebody off. I think they're just a team you have to be weary of this Saturday.
I'm scared to death of them, to be honest with you. I mean, they're a team that I, for the life of me, can't figure out. Like, I would have to study them to figure out why they're not any good, because you know they've kind of got the makeup of a team. I mean, you know, look at Rocket Watts last year. I mean, this doesn't happen to Tom Izzo very often. Probably only a handful of players, but you know, Rocket Watts there was a lot of expectations out of him for Michigan State coming into this year, and he just has fallen flat on his face. Like they tried to put him at point guard. That didn't work. They moved him back to two guard. They really don't have a point guard. But I mean, they've got the personnel. That's the scary part. I kept waiting for them to all of a sudden turn the corner. We see Tom Izzo's teams do that every year. You know, let's not let it turn around now.
So they wanted to make sure you paid your tab before they kicked you out.
Seriously. I mean, I've never been kicked out like that before. Are you kidding me?
Well, you know, you are in Iowa, even though you're an hour behind.
I have not paid the tab. So no, I got a chicken sandwich to pay for.
That's funny. Getting back to this game, though, the guards played well. Rob Finney, 3 of 6 tonight, 3 of 3 from behind the 3-point line. So you're getting 3-point shots from that's Franklin. I'm reading his lines. My bad.
Right.
Armand Franklin, 3 of 3 behind the 3-point line. He continues to continue to come back from that ankle injury. I don't think he's 100% yet, but he just continues. He's getting more and more consistent, back to where he was, kind of, it seems like.
Yeah, that ankle injury is just a BS excuse. He's fine. Look, nobody plays at 100%. That ankle injury is no different than everybody's knees hurting and shoulders hurting and everything else. He's fine. Every time he shoots bad, we blame his ankle. And every time he shoots good, we say he's getting back closer to 100%. He's fine. He's 100% fine, or Garl wouldn't let him on the court.
Charlie Miller joining us. Minnesota guards wore down. Minnesota was a team that they were missing a starter who played 31 minutes. They had a guy who was on a bum ankle, so they were kind of beat up. But man, they really played tough. But they did wear down. Jamal Mashburn's son looks just like him, man. That's
the thing. Like, you can say without, I can't remember their guard's name. There's a good shooter that didn't play tonight, but Mashburn came in and had a career high tonight. So he took the minutes of what the other guy would have had. But you know, this is not a team that I would say reached their potential. I think they kind of peaked earlier in the year, and this Minnesota team, I think, has struggled. Carr gets a lot of credit for being one of the best guards in the country, and he doesn't do it for me very often. I mean, the best guards in the country make everybody else on the floor better, and I don't necessarily think I think he makes himself better, but I don't think he makes everybody else better.
The last game filled with runs. Ohio State, big runs, even for both teams. This one, not nearly as many, but Charlie pointed out IU had a nice 9-0 run and a 16-2 run to have to take pride on the defensive end and then start the offense. I think maybe, is that what happened some of those times where we saw the more fluent offense tonight at the times we did see it? Well, I know that there were some accidentals, but there was a few plays that seemed like they were on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Indiana had the mindset of going to Trace Jackson Davis, but I also think that maybe a secondary mindset was driving the ball more. I saw Finney get into the middle of the lane a lot more than normal. I saw Al and Armand both trying to drive into the lane, and if that's a consistent effort for them to try to get in there, a lot of good things happen when you get into the lane. A lot of good things happen for you, and a lot of bad things happen for the defense. And I think that's something that was hurting Indiana also on the defensive end in the first half was Minnesota's guards were able to drive at will, and that kind of stopped in the second half.
I'll tell you something I noticed. I noticed some really good passing by Indiana, and not just one guy. Leo Erlander made a great pass early on that started a sequence that led to a three. But I also saw I think Finney made a great pass. They were making interior passes, which I haven't seen them do a lot of that this year, that led directly to scoring. Haven't seen a lot of direct interior passes lead direct to scoring, and saw a lot of that tonight.
Well, and I think they had some better passes with purpose. I think a couple of the plays that you're talking about, Rob Finney made a really good dribble to the right and then stopped and turned around and kicked it back to Jerome for an open three-pointer. And literally 2 plays later, Rob got subbed out, Lander came in the game, and Lander ran the exact same play, which gives you a lot of confidence in thinking, okay, he's on the bench, he sees Jerome's hot, he saw the same play just get run, and he ran exactly the same thing. Jerome made another 3. And so that's a real positive. That tells you they're engaged on the bench. You love to see a freshman recognize that situation. He and Jerome probably been playing a lot on the second team, in practice. So they've got a little bit of a camaraderie together. So, there was a lot of good things. I'm telling you, I'm as critical on Indiana as I think just about anybody is. And I think if you watch our show, you pick up on that pretty quickly. But something in the second half looked different tonight. I felt a lot better about this team today than I have in quite a while, than I have since earlier in the season. And, I say that. I hope I don't bite myself or get bit in the butt here coming back with a game at Michigan State. But they looked good. They did look good. They did look good.
They did. They looked. It was actually at times, and a lot more times than not, maybe it was actually enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
When they had that movement, it was actually fun again. Someone said that a minute ago, and it was that just when you're milking the shot clock to 4 seconds every time and forcing, it's excruciating for fans, and it's because you're always on the edge of your seat. You're just like hoping, but there wasn't as much of that tonight, and they seemed to have more fun. It seemed to loosen them up, and I just kind of wish Archie would see that and maybe try to make an adjustment there. But Archie is kind of, he seems to have his philosophy, and whatever that is, it is what it is. It ain't changing,
right?
It ain't changing.
I think
it is what it is.
The theme
it
of
ain't
the press
changing.
conference, it ain't changing.
It ain't changing.
Look,
hey,
nice to see Damon's little brother Steve with a comment here, closing out the game. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. After the game with Todd Leary, of course, brought to you by Yogi's here in Bloomington. Just want to make sure, because I'm not there tonight. I couldn't get in there tonight, but wanted to get them a shout out. Saturday is Breakfast Club, man. You better get there early.
It.
Michigan State
you
game
better get there
noon.
early, because the kids are lining up probably tomorrow for it.
Ain't no lie. Michigan State coming in on Saturday, but again, Indiana makes 6 of their last 7 shots in this game too. That's important closing out a game, because Minnesota's coming at them, trying to foul, trying to get whatever to close that game, and to hit 6 of your last 7, probably pretty good.
And close it out at the free throw line. I mean, I know I said the free throws you can't really look at the percentages because a lot of them were at the end of the game, but you still got to make them. And Indiana's able to put the right guys at the line. They did a good job. Everything all around, outside of the defense in the first half, the first 20 minutes, where I thought they just gave up too much penetration. They probably didn't rebound as well as I think they could have in the second half. The numbers don't really show it. I kept looking at the rebounding numbers, and it showed Indiana with a decent advantage throughout the game, but there was probably 6 or 7 possessions where they gave up offensive rebounds in the second half. But they were able to play defense on that second possession too, and I don't know that Minnesota scored on any of them. So, this was a good win. This was you can't lose this game. This wipes out both of your Iowa victories if you lose this game at home. Like, you just can't lose this one, and that's to win a game that they had to win. It's a good feeling.
Charlie Miller says they played with an edge, kind of following up on what you said. I think that Archie went in after that press conference and said, look, you guys got to bust your ass.
Everybody thinks I shouldn't play you anymore, so give me a reason to play you.
You can't make me look like an idiot. You got to bust your ass and win this game, and you're the only ones that's going to play.
I just stood up for you, so please, I'm begging you. I've tried to yell at you. I've tried to sit you on the bench. I've tried everything. Now I'm begging, just please go out there and play. I think that we're kind of acting like it just happened out of nowhere. I think Archie had to have talked to them about dribble penetration and drive into the basket. I mean, I don't think it just happens for no reason. I think Rob definitely was more aggressive driving to the basket. Al and Armand, they were all more aggressive driving the ball tonight. And, that's not something that just would be successful against Minnesota. You can do that against anybody, and it kills the defense. And I hope they continue with that.
First half, I remember Minnesota guards, 30 points. Indiana guards had 14 at that time, but Indiana had a little more action going on the interior where Minnesota did not at that time. But in the second half, I'd have to look and see how many points they had, but it seemed like there was a lot less active. They weren't letting them get to the basket nearly as.
They weren't letting Mashburn get in there. I mean, the Ryan's comment about the second half, we stopped the guards. I mean, that's true. I mean, the penetration wasn't there. They weren't available to get down the lane. And now they still got some drives in there, but they were difficult shots. I can remember probably 3 or 4 at least, kind of runners on the side of the lane. They didn't make any of them. And so, they just didn't let them drive straight down Meridian Street, down the middle of the lane. They were at least making them get outside a little bit.
Yes, he has. He's done coaching, but AAU. Did you ever coach above the AAU?
I have not. Nope.
No desire to do that.
Coaching, and this is, I give these guys a lot of credit. You've got to start from the beginning. You've got to, from the time you get out of school. Yeah, you got to take those internships.
It's a grind.
It is. And
it's
there's so many
freaking
guys.
Grind.
You can look at, when did Michael Lewis play? Back in 1998?
95s or whatever.
IU, and he's still grinding it out. Now, he's grinding now as an assistant at UCLA. That isn't so bad. For a lot of years, it wasn't always that way. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of people with a lot of basketball knowledge. There's a lot of Coach Knight people out there that, that learned from him. I always say this, and I think part of the reason with offenses across the country is Coach Knight stopped doing his coaches clinics way back in 2000 when he got fired or whatever it was. There used to be thousands of coaches every year that would come to those coaches clinics and learn the motion offense. And ever since then, now all we got is ball screens. People, whoever is doing these shows, do ball screen offenses or do these clinics. They show how to do a ball screen and all that crap. And that's my high horse. I'm going to sit on that one for a minute. But,
why is that, though? Because it works.
There's no one to teach it. There's no one to teach it. There's no one doing those clinics. I mean, you go to a clinic for John Calipari. I mean, Coach K doesn't waste his time doing a clinic. Calipari doesn't do a clinic. Those guys they'll have camps where they're making a whole bunch of money for it. Coach Knight used to have a camp every year. Trust me, as a player, we hated it because we had to demonstrate. We had to demonstrate through the entire thing. So we had to run every single piece of motion off. Like, it was miserable. And there was thousands of coaches in Assembly Hall there watching that every year. And it was a miserable. The managers and coaches, or managers and players, will tell you the coaches clinic sucked from our perspective, but a lot of guys learned a lot of stuff.
Archie just said in the postgame presser that he'd like to get Jerome, Trace, and Race on the floor at the same time. What do you think about that rotation?
Does he know how to? Anybody that can help him get those guys on the floor? I mean, does he know a guy that can help with the rotations? I mean, who's he got to ask?
I've said that quite a few times. He knows he's the head coach. Right?
Who's he's got to ask?
He's talked about minutes. When he talks about players need to get more minutes, I'm like, he knows he's the head coach, right? Yeah. So hopefully they'll see that. But
I would like to see that as well.
Yes, Al is playing great. Got to keep him playing. Charlie said, 365. What was that? Charlie's 366 days, grinding a year? It's probably what he means. Got to grind it out 366 days out of a year. See. Seen a Leary kid play at Carroll last weekend. Yep, he's doing a heck of a job. They've got a game on Friday night. They're doing great.
Yeah, Little Willie.
On purpose, Charlie puts in 366 days out of the year.
He's saying he wrote that on purpose, but this is going back to what you take away from this game. You kind of want your team to peak at the right times, and we always give Tom Izzo credit for his team playing the best when it gets to March. Well, we're 10 days away from March, And Indiana today looked different. They looked better. If they can build off of this, you go down and look at the roster of Indiana, there's not very many teams that want to play against them. I can tell you that. And something was different tonight. I hope we go back and talk about this date and this game being the kind of springboard into them really playing well.
Well, defensively, if they can marry the defense with the offense that they had tonight, there's success to be had. But they're going to have to do that consistently, and we haven't seen that. They have not won or lost more than 2 games in a row this season. Kind of a weird stat, but Michigan State coming up, they have an excellent opportunity to win this week, to win their 2nd game in a row. That 3rd one's going to be tough, but this one's going to be tough. Hell, they're all tough. But Michigan State is a team that if they play like they did tonight, they don't lose to Michigan State.
Agree. Yeah, I totally agree.
Like that.
I totally agree. And Michigan State struggles to score. If the defense plays like it did in the second half.
The truth.
If they play like they did in the second half, this is, Michigan State will struggle to score. It'll be a bet the under because they'll struggle to put points up.
There's the truth. Glad to see the truth. I Joe, don't even know what that one is there, so we're going to leave that one just hanging there. Michigan State, like I said, a team that is been struggling.
They need some Z's. It's time to go to sleep because it's late.
Yeah, well, that's perfectly what's coming up next. That's where we're headed. It's a late one for us. But we'll be back on the show tomorrow, or we'll be back on the show tomorrow. But, of course, Saturday, back again after the game with Todd Leary. That's all I can talk about. It was a good night for Indiana. We saw things we hadn't seen all year. We'll talk about it again tomorrow. But thank everybody for joining us. Todd, of course, thank you. Go find a hotel room and pay your tab and go to sleep, man.
Yeah, they're not leaving until I pay. I can assure you that.
Everybody else, we appreciate you so much. I'll see you tomorrow, of course, on the show. Wear your mask, do something nice for somebody. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.